Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Hey friends, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited to have you here again this week, and I'm already chuckling at the beginning of this podcast because I have my favorite person on the face of the planet here with me on the podcast today, the one and the only Mr. Magic. And this is our third try at starting this podcast, Allwood. Are we up to the third try?
Third time is a charm.
Do we struggle with who's the boss, you or me? I don't think we struggle, but are we on the struggle bus?
No, we're not on the struggle bus. It's just that you like things a certain way, I like things a certain way, and not necessarily in our house, but in business.
In life.
In life, yeah, sometimes in life.
In life. And so we're starting this again because I got on my pissy pants. And we're good now, right?
Well, you just asked a question, and I went way back to the beginning.
I know, you went back to like being 16 years old.
Yeah, and Adam and Eve back in the day. They were in the garden.
We had a pet dinosaur. Yeah. Okay, so we're good now. We're starting this podcast over today. And, I wanted to make sure, like, I just even mentioned the fact that here we are, like, starting and stopping and restarting and stopping and trying to get on the same page because I think this is real life. And I do think that sometimes social media can make it look like everything's hunky-dory 100% of the time. And the truth is you and I are really different individuals. We have very different ways of communicating, and we come from very different backgrounds, and we're just trying to figure out this thing as we go. Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's a roller coaster some days.
You make it sound like it's torture, but
no, it's not torture at all. Just some days some days we gel really good, and some days we look at each other and I think you just don't like me.
Well, I think you're breathing again. Like
right.
It's that whole in and out thing, the in of the breath and the out of the mouth.
I get it.
Okay, so listen, friends, for those of you who are joining, you're like, I don't even know what these people are talking about. I'm Jennifer Allwood, and I owned a decorative painting company in Kansas City for the last 17 years. We shut that down last year, and I've just totally gone online with teaching people how to grow their businesses in the online space. And my business went a little bit crazy pants in about, I would say it was January. And I think it was January when we decided to close down my inner circle, which I know a ton of you belong to. And you're just my absolute favorite people on the planet, besides my husband, just so you know. And so, I was thinking we'd get a couple hundred people that signed up for my coaching group before we closed it at the end of January. Instead, we got almost 1,200 people. And I think that's when you and I, for the first time, looked at each other and went, okay.
What are we doing?
What's happening here?
Where are we going with this train?
Where are we going? Where is the bus headed? And so I think that's honestly when we started having the conversation about, does it even make sense anymore for you to continue going to corporate America when the truth is I was like drowning at home.
Yeah. And I didn't realize, because I quote unquote worked the 9 to 5 when
you were gone
corporate America. So I didn't realize everything that was involved with your business side of it, the kids, how much running, how many emails, phone calls, Facebook Lives, Instagram, all that stuff. I didn't realize it because I wasn't here. And I'm not on social media either, so I don't see it either. Yeah. I just know you're on your phone.
So, and I do think, I just want you to know, baby, I love that you're not on social media.
Really?
Because
I thought about getting a page.
A Facebook page?
Sure, why not? I think I'm going to start off with MySpace. Ease into it. I'm
at a loss for words. This isn't in my notes. Okay, but I love that you're not on social media because you're not, you are not chained to anything. Like when I look at you, I'm like, he's totally free. Like you're always fully present in whatever you're doing because you don't care about like filming it for Instagram, or you don't care about taking the perfect shot so that it looks good on Facebook. Like you're just in the moment. And I love that so much.
The pictures on my phone are a couple hundred. Pictures on your phone are a couple 100,000.
Well, I think I'm at 16,000, and I think I need to probably pare that back. And
so I just take pictures, and if it's a bad shot, I still keep it. I don't have anybody readjust. If I could,
you don't know how to edit a picture, do you?
No.
All would be honest.
I'm being honest.
Okay, you don't know. It's okay. You've got other skills.
I do. I can make calls on my phone. I can text.
So January is about the time when we were like, does this any longer make sense for our family for you to continue going to corporate America, which was a great job. And people are always curious what your background is. So your background is sales.
My background is sales. I started in the food industry way back when I was 16 years old, cooking pizzas at a local place. And then I took those skills to another restaurant, then another restaurant. Then I finally got out of the restaurant when we got married and wanted to start a family. I started in the food sales side of it and worked for a distributor, left that, got a real estate, then went to work for Cisco.
Yeah. And so food sales is your background.
Food sales is my background.
And so, which was a great job. It was a great gig. But eventually we just got to the point where I know I was looking at you going, I need help here. Like my business has gone so crazy. I mean, we 2.5 times the business in about a 4-day period. And while that is spectacular, it's also very overwhelming. And I think you and I were both like, okay, whose life is this, first of all? And now what do we do? So that's when we kind of started the conversation about, does it still make sense for you to go to corporate America every day? Or could you actually be at home working with me, running around kids, helping with the home remodel? We bought a new home and moved in February.
Yeah.
And you resigned from corporate America and came home in April. So it's been 3 months, 90 days. Is this your 90-day review?
This will be a 90-day review. How am I doing so far?
I think you're doing fantastic.
Really?
I do, yeah. So we've got lots of questions.
So in 90 days, does that mean do you get a raise or a bonus?
Yeah, you get none of that.
Oh.
You get none of that, but people are super curious because I know it's pretty unconventional.
It is.
And they're wondering like what you're doing at home with me. How is that working? We've got a list of questions and we'll just take these one by one if that's okay.
Sure.
And I think it's really super important that you guys understand on the other end of the podcast that we didn't really have a game plan for this. Like, did we ever have a conversation, honey, about
this is what you're going to
dreaming of us working together someday? I don't know that we did.
You know, when we first met, I dreamed of marrying you. I met you. We worked together then. I asked you out. You said no.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were my boss, baby. And we worked at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was young and I didn't like
I was younger.
I didn't like you so much.
I was younger.
I know. You're a little bit younger. And so we did work together then. And we did work well together.
We worked well together. And then we got married, so we worked well with that.
Yes.
Well, that first year's a little shaky.
First year didn't count.
20 plus years later, we're still friends.
I love you.
Right.
You're amazing. Yes. So let's take some questions. I'm just going to read these like one by one and we can decide as we go kind of who wants to answer it. But Lori Larmore says, why did we decide to retire you?
It really came down to time away more than anything else. In the job I had, it was 6 days a week, not always out of the house, but 90% of it was out of the house. I worked remotely, I guess, 1 day a week. But there was a lot of meetings. There was a lot of just work stuff.
You were just gone.
I was gone. And Mondays and Thursdays were bad days. Those were 10, 12-hour days. But
yeah. And I think it also came down to the financial piece of it. It just no longer made sense. I mean, even though you were paid very handsomely for what you did, it just no longer made sense for you to keep going there when I was at home, like literally thinking, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown if I don't get some help. I mean, yes, I had staff, but we had just bought a house and we were having all these contractors in every single day. And we had kids, and kids have baseball practice and they have, football practice and they need run places. And so I was trying to run the kids, man the home remodel, and manage a business that shot to 7 figures in January. And the truth is I wasn't doing a very good job of it.
It was overwhelming. It was overwhelming for both of us with the remodel and everything else. But I also think, though, that I didn't realize because I was gone every day that if she stopped to answer a question because a contractor was here or a paint was getting done or a guy knocked on the door wanted to look at lawn care service, whatever else, she had to stop everything she was doing, go answer those questions, and then come back and try to – you just don't come back into regrouping and going back into your thing. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You get sidetracked, your phone, your emails, whatever else is on there. So I think I didn't realize in the stress it was putting on our marriage relationship and the family of me being gone as much as I was.
Yeah. And can I tell them a little secret about you?
Sure.
Like the third day you were home from corporate America. Well, so he resigned on, he put in his resignation. His last day was on a Friday in April. You gave him
plenty of time.
You gave him plenty of time. And I felt awful because I was with Rachel Hollis at her RISE conference in LA on your last day of corporate America. So I wasn't even like home being the supportive wife. We didn't throw you a party. We didn't do any of the things. And then, so you were home with me like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all of a sudden the doorbell rings on Wednesday. And it's a flower delivery service.
I thought it was Friday. I gave him on Friday.
It doesn't even matter what day it was. But, and the note, and I kept the note, and it made me cry. And I think I'm sure I shared it on Instagram. It said, I had no idea what you were trying to manage every day. I'm so sorry. I love you. Oh, you're so sweet. So it was a lot. So that leads us to kind of the next question from Gloria's Creations. She says, I have it in my heart to retire my husband someday also, but he's always been the main breadwinner. How did your husband feel about you becoming the main source of income now? I think that's a really good question.
Yes, let's go deep here, okay? Because go back 21 years, and I think in the beginning, I think I was a breadwinner.
For sure.
You were working a couple of jobs when we got married. Yeah. I left the restaurant, took another job. Then I think you were the breadwinner. And then I had a couple of jobs. So we have flip-flopped in our breadwinning roles.
We have not flip-flopped jobs.
No, not flip-flopped jobs, flip-flopped our breadwinning roles. I mean, because...
the majority of the time you were the breadwinner, but the last couple of years, my business has just gone kind of crazy.
It has gone kind of crazy. But even when you had the painting business, though, there were good years, and then there were some years when it was a hobby that we didn't make any money on it. So, I mean...
I'm looking at him like he has horns in his head. Are you joking right now?
Totally kidding.
I was going to say there is never a year where my business in the painting business did not make money. I will arm wrestle you over that, Allwood.
No, but it was one of those things too where I don't know. I don't really look at it as who's breadwinning and who's whatever else. We're in it together.
We're a team.
Yeah, it's a team. It's been a team effort since been mostly you, but it's a team. I'm part of the team.
Yeah. Well, and I think because you're not on social media, and so, Gloria, this would be one of the questions I have for you. I don't think that you realized kind of the potential of the online space.
Not until I started looking at it.
Yeah, until you started looking at it. What do you mean? Because you still don't have social media.
I don't have social media, but I look at the data that comes in. I look at
now that you're looking at numbers.
Even though I'm not on social media, I still look at the numbers on what it generates. Financially, what it generates, what the reaches are and stuff like that. I might not be on it, but I still analyze that stuff.
Right.
Even though my math is terrible.
Sometimes your math is terrible. Sometimes your math is impeccable.
Right.
Yeah. I mean.
Depends on what I'm trying to do.
Exactly.
Balance a checkbook.
But so I want to just tag onto your answer because I do agree with you. We're totally a team, and it's not like she's the breadwinner, he's the breadwinner. But I don't know if I've ever told you this privately, but I'll tell people publicly. You are just super secure in who you are. And I don't think that it bothers you one bit that your wife is the breadwinner for this season of our life. Does it? I mean, I feel like you're so completely comfortable in who you are. My man will wear pink and he will just let things, kind of play out the way that they are. And I think that it takes a really special person to be able to let their wife, I'm going really deep here, be all that God created her to be. Because I do think that there are some relationships where that would be very awkward and uncomfortable perhaps for the husband. But you have from day one just encouraged me and not allowed me because that sounds barbaric, but but you have just supported me so much. Yes. And you're so comfortable with who you are and so comfortable with who I am that it's not like it's a competition. We're a team.
No, and I also think that, even when you started the painting company, we were babies. We were babies and we had babies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just felt, just always felt like we were a team and we weren't against each other. We were always for each other. We always encouraged each other whenever we did. So
the next question is from Katie Imler, and she says, are you worried about retirement? My husband and I own multiple businesses together, and retirement is something I worry about. And so, Katie, I think that's a super valid question. We actually just met with somebody last week to really kind of figure out what to do in that area. And I don't think I'm not worrying about it in the least. Are you?
I'm not worried about it in the least right now. I think that retirement is kind of a state of mind also. I don't know. I think you should have a good accountant, a good financial advisor.
Absolutely.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your portfolio as much as you possibly can. And then.
But we're not worrying.
I'm not worried.
Because here's what I know to be true. We knew that you were supposed to come home. We're people of faith. And, when we would pray about it, this is what we knew that God was asking our family to do, regardless of if we know anybody else doing it this way. This is how we're doing it. And so, I do feel like sometimes we get caught up in the things like, well, how are we going to handle insurance? How are you going to handle, retirement? How are you going to handle, what he does and what you do? And the cry of my heart has always just been, Lord, just let us be obedient. Let us be obedient to whatever it is that you're calling us to do. And we may not have everything figured out. I mean, for a while we were like, okay, what are we going to do for insurance?
We don't have everything figured out. But I think the thing that is, though, we are committed to doing what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And we're all in. We're all in. Yeah. And if your husband is not all in or your wife is not all in on your business, then I think that then there needs to have a serious conversation with it.
Absolutely.
Because if you're worried about retirement, and if you have multiple streams of revenue coming in, that's what the question was. I think that I think that there might be a one of those hot conversations we call it, right?
Yeah,
honest, open, and transparent conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads to the next question from Stephanie Seiler Rogers, who said insurance. Now that she's quit teaching in order to paint, yay you, Stephanie. And her husband works part-time and is part-time self-employed. What do we do for benefits? So we are doing like a meta-share insurance. I'm not sure that we'll stay with that. I would also suggest, Stephanie, if you're a person of faith, that you check into something like Samaritan's Purse. But I want to tell them, this is totally like going rogue off my notes here, but we figured out the greatest thing about prescriptions the other day. Can I tell them?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sure this is going to be TMI, but here we go. Okay, so on occasion, I get cold sores. It just is what it is. I've had them since I was a little kid. And if I have a combination of stress, salt, sun, or acid, like eating too many tomatoes, not like licking car batteries, but like eating too many tomatoes. If I have too many of those four, I have a propensity to get cold sores. So I have a prescription for it. Well, now that we are self-employed and have an insurance that's very different than what we were used to with corporate America, we do not have prescription coverage. So the other day, you went to pick up my prescription because you're all that in a bag of chips. And it was it $323? $323, you guys, for a bottle of cold sore medication.
I tried calling. I did try calling to see if you wanted me to go through the transaction.
You tried calling me. And so he comes home with this bag of pills and the receipt, and I about lost my mind. And I'm like, what on earth? So I was talking to my friend Samantha, just like literally the day before that. And she'd been telling me about this app online. So please, somebody write this down, send this podcast to everybody that you know that's self-employed, because I am going to sing about this company from now until it doesn't work for us anymore. But it's called Good RX. So the word good, RX is an app on your phone, right?
It was an app on your phone. Yeah.
Okay. And so then it wants you to like put in, the name of the prescription that you're needing, and it tells you, and then your zip code, and it tells you where to get it at the best price close to you. Literally, the Costco's, which is like how many miles from us?
1.5.
1.5. Had the prescription for $23, you guys. So we went from $3.23 or $3.26 to $23. I called that first pharmacy and I'm like, yo, I know we already paid for this, but I haven't even opened up this bottle of pills, and we are bringing this back, and you are going to give us a refund, because that is ludicrous amounts of money for cold sore medication, and we got it for $23. So I'm saying that all to say, Stephanie, I know insurance is kind of
scary.
It is scary. And we've been talking to a financial advisor who honestly is suggesting to us to really look into Obamacare. I don't care where you land in the politics area. This is not a political statement. So, I'm not sure that we're going to stay with what we have currently put in place. But here's what I know. That when I get to heaven someday, I did not want God to say, well, Jen, why did you guys not retire Jason when I told you to? And for my excuse to be, well, we couldn't quite figure out the insurance.
Yeah.
So So I do think you need to have wisdom, but I also think that everything is figure outable. I love that saying from Marie Forleo. And so we're figuring it out as we go. So,
sure.
Stacy White wants to know, honey, what are you doing now? Are you only supporting me in the business, or are you starting a business venture of your own? I am so curious as to how you answer this.
Really?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Well, you can tell them what you do. You take care of all of the money now in the business. You take care of all the financials. Thank you, Jesus. I just dumped that in your lap.
Yes, you did. And the insurance dumped in my lap. And
anything technical is dumped in your lap. Figure out how to get my new podcast mic working, dumped in your lap.
Figure out how the printer doesn't work.
Anything that causes me to want to break out in hives, literally you have taken over. And do you have any idea how grateful I am?
No, but I'm sure you're not going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, baby.
What I'm doing now is finishing up the home remodel, which was 90% of the way done when I got home, because Jen did an amazing job with that beforehand.
Oh, thank you, honey. You're looking for brownie points, aren't you?
Whatever. You know it. I mean, it was mostly done. We had a few things, small things that need to be finished up and stuff like that on the construction side of it. And then
you're going to be running the remodel of the basement, which starts next month.
Hopefully, yeah. It'll take about 3 months to do. And then after that, I honestly, since we're retired, me from corporate America, you would think you have all this free time to just sit and talk about what you're going to do in life and, how fun this is and everything else.
It's busy.
We were talking this morning, and it's there's not a lot of downtime.
No. Well, I think anybody, how people that used to work in corporate America and maybe quit to run a business from home or whatever, they'll say things like, I had no idea how I even had time for a full-time job before. That's how we feel about you. How did you ever go to work and me stay above water? I mean, you still go to work, but it's just in the comfort of our own home.
Well, I think that just a lot of your business stuff guys got pushed to the side, or it just didn't happen in a timely enough manner.
Right.
That's basically what it boils down to.
So I was curious if you were going to mention anything about, I'm itching to flip a house.
Yeah. So I think in our short interim, in the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days, we're going to try to finish off our basement. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we will take a good hard look at either flipping a home, or I always had a desire of having a sports equipment, not a storefront necessarily, but online stuff like that. And then I don't know, we will have multiple things going on in this home all the time, mm-hmm. because that's the way we've always been.
Yeah.
Whether it's flipping furniture, whether it's buying or selling cars, we've done that. We've done houses, we've done cars, we've done pretty much everything.
Yeah, and so it was funny because somebody was asking me before you retired from corporate, they're like, well, what's he going to do now? And I said, you know what? I don't know that we know totally. And I hope somebody on the other end of this podcast hears it, because this is what I said to them. I said, but for the first time since I have ever known him, I know now that he has options. And so you can figure out what it is that you want to do, in addition to what you're doing to help me, or if none of it fits. I mean, the fact that now, I feel like I'm hopefully that feels, because it feels like a gift to me. Thank you, Lord, that we have options now to where you don't have to do the thing you don't want to do anymore.
Right. And not that I didn't want to do it before. It's just that it took away a lot of stuff.
Yeah. You missed things.
And I didn't realize how much I missed until I stopped doing what I was doing. I was never that guy that took off on a Friday, because of work, because we usually had corporate meetings and, stuff like that, to take my son on a field trip. He's going to be a freshman this year in high school. And so it's, I missed out on that for all those years.
Yeah.
We didn't get to, I wasn't that guy that got to go on the field trip. There wasn't a lot of dads there, just so hear that, ladies. I mean, there are not a lot of dads there doing it. So if your husband can come home, it's kind of awesome, because the kids love it. The kids like having the dad around.
They do.
And then my daughter had a field day. It was the last day of school. I got to do that. And I had never done that before. And she's going in 5th grade. So,
you've done all the dentist appointments and
I got to watch my daughter get her tooth pulled the other day. So
and in all total transparency, it feels a little weirdish for me, because I was the mom that did all of those things. And we put the hold on my business for many, many years until the kids were all in school. Because we wanted to make sure that I was at every single, Valentine party, Christmas party, every field trip, Mom was there.
Yeah, we went to a talent show this year. Never done that stuff. And I don't know. It's been interesting, but I also think though that we have never been that necessarily conventional that, you have to be the cooker and the cleaner of the house.
Right.
And that, I take care of the oil changes and whatever else, because I take care of the oil changes, but I also do the cooking.
Right. And I have taken care of the money, our
and
entire
you take care
marriage,
of the money,
and never cooked a day in our life.
There was that one day.
I made taco casserole in a microwave and you wouldn't eat it. And I was like, fine, then I will never cook again.
Thank you, Lord, for that.
So this is a funny question from Amanda Miller, and it makes me giggle just to even read it. Is Mr. Magic still motivated to get up and do things in the mornings?
You know what? It's funny. That question is funny because
it is funny.
Because when you worked for corporate America, it wasn't that I regretted or was resentful to getting up in the morning. It's just that I think a lot of it was because I stayed up a lot later because I would get home in the afternoon and decompress.
Well, you didn't really have time to decompress until bedtime.
Right. And so I would sit and watch TV or do whatever
at midnight.
At midnight, literally, or 1 o'clock.
Well, because you'd get home and the kids would be all over you.
Yeah, and they'd have to go. And we still had the practices. We still had this to do and that to do and dinner to make because my wife doesn't cook and, or whatever else. And so I decompressed. My wife is early to bed, early to rise.
Yes.
So she is.
I'm a rooster, baby.
Yeah, 10 o'clock, man. She turns into the hermit crab and she wants to hit the night button. Well, I would just decompress from 10 till midnight or 1 o'clock.
Because you're the owl.
Yeah, and so then in the morning, the alarm would go off at 6:30 and I'd hit the snooze button till 7:30, depending on the day.
And I would be cussing and getting the kids up for
because she had to get all the kids and stuff like that. Now, even this morning, my feet hit the ground before hers did.
Yep.
At 6:30, and we're on the deck having coffee and we're having our quiet time and reading our Bible and we're just looking at each other and talking, and it's different. But yes, I do get up. I still have a desire to get up and get my day going because you know what, I still have a lot of things to do.
You do, but yeah, I agree 100% that I don't know. There's just like this little. Everything feels a little bit more joyful right now. I love our time together in the mornings on the patio. I love that we have just time.
I love that we have a patio that we spend.
I love that we have a deck that we can watch the geese. It's amazing. So this question's super funny, babe. Annette McShane wants to know, are either of us gaining weight since you are home cooking for us all the time?
I looked at the scale this morning and I was not happy.
Oh, babe, you have the metabolism of a cheetah. You can literally just say, I'm not going to eat bread for 2 days and drop 10 pounds, whatever.
I did. There was a box of Hostess cupcakes in the pantry that I did indulge in.
Did you melee through that?
I didn't, not the whole box. No, but there was there's a couple in there. I didn't eat lunch.
Yeah.
But it was delicious.
But
nonetheless.
You have done a phenomenal job since you have been home of making sure that we are exercising and that I in particular am taking better care of myself.
So I think she asked, what was the question? If we're
gaining weight.
If I gain weight. Okay. I don't think we're gaining weight necessarily, but we're not losing any weight.
Whatever. Your wife's working her butt off right now.
I'm talking about myself.
Okay.
Myself. I haven't gained or lost any weight. My wife is doing better. But I think our physical activity has increased dramatically.
For sure. And again, it just comes down to because there's more time.
It does come down to that. But I also, and it's not that we're just doing stuff different. I mean, it's so.
Cheryl Peterson DeFolder says, do we get along and laugh together as much as what we do on Instagram and Facebook Lives, or do we sometimes get on each other's nerves?
Well,
that's a deep subject.
Who's this from? Is this from?
Well, that's from Cheryl.
Oh, from Cheryl.
Yes.
Cheryl, I'll ask you this question. Is every day of your marriage bliss? Because I can tell you that we do like to have fun, and I do try to make my wife laugh by some of the stupid and crazy stuff that I say. But at the same time, I guess I'm headstrong sometimes. What would you say?
Impatient
sometimes.
Hot-headed.
Oh, really? We're going to go there? Hot-headed?
Well, and I've got my own issues. Yeah. So, no, we, for the most part, here's what we're working on most right now in our marriage. I feel like we're working on communicating better.
Yeah, because I would agree with that.
We're working on communicating better. Like, it's so funny. After 21 years of marriage and marriage counseling multiple times, we still have lots of room for improvement in the area of just communicating better.
I think everybody does. I think everybody has room for that.
But we do laugh a lot.
We do laugh. I cry a little bit.
No, you don't. But what'd you think of this? Was this fun?
Yeah, I thought there was. Was there?
And the next one is a similar question to what we asked before. So,
right.
So we can wrap this up. And so, which means I'm supposed to treat you like a real podcast guest.
Sure.
And thank you for being in the studio today and all the things.
I thought we were going to go rapid fire. I've heard you do that before on your podcast stuff.
Well, the truth is the lawn mowing company just showed up right outside of the window of the office, and everybody's going to be able to hear it on the podcast right now. Chris, my podcast guy, is going to be custom because he can't edit it out. And we have a vacation to go on. We need to be to the airport in 3 hours.
Okay.
And but I just want to tell you something publicly real quick, if I can. I'm looking into your gorgeous green eyes right now.
That's a loud lawnmower.
It is the loudest lawnmower, and I'm so sorry you all have to hear that, and this is real life. So I just want to tell you thank you for being my biggest cheerleader and for always convincing me and believing that I could do harder things than what I give myself credit for, and believing that this would be bigger than what I even think that it will be. You honestly, the amount of support I get from you, it really makes me feel like I can do anything, and it's just such a gift. And so thank you, baby.
Well, it's always been my goal to make you feel special because you are.
Thank you. You're amazing. He's amazing, right? So, and no, he doesn't have a brother, ladies.
I don't have a brother, and I am happily married.
And he did shave off his stripper mustache this morning, so that is gone. So, hey, friends, thank you guys so much for being here on the podcast. I am so sorry that we've got this mower right outside the window, but again, this is real life, and we're happy to share it with you. So, please, if you guys get a chance, do me a favor. Forward this podcast on to someone who would love to bring their spouse home. Forward this on to somebody who may just need an ounce or a dose of encouragement that it is possible, because literally, I mean, even just a year ago, would we have thought this was possible?
No, and it truly is a blessing. I know that it might be difficult for some people to want to come home or or whatever else, but it truly is a blessing for everybody, for the family, for the wife, for the husband.
It really is.
For the kids, and just for the business in general, because it's just, we're here.
I mean, I know that there's some scary things involved in it when you think about the logistics of, insurance and
100%.
401k and all that jazz. But listen, you never know who or what is on the other side of your obedience. So if God is calling you to do something, we just encourage you to go full speed ahead on that. So again, thanks for being here, friends. Do me a favor, hop on over to iTunes, and would you mind leaving us a review? And if you leave me a review on iTunes, screenshot it to me and send it to me in a DM on Instagram, and I'll send you a little video back this week. Because that's just fun and exciting, and I love it when you guys leave reviews. So we will plan on being back again next week. Until then, you guys stay creative. Bye.
Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out, and that you share the Jennifer Allwood show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.